which is a contradiction. Because we also say that Nigerians are great storytellers. So if you are great storytellers, why are you bad script writers? Okay, we've already been talking about it, and there's one man we branded Mr. Authentic. Because you write a column, and every time you say authentic African story, which must have authentic content and context. Especially when those arguments about Gang of Lagos came up, and they had to make intervention that, look, it is about the way you tell your story. Because you have to be conscious of your environment and co. So Femi Odugbemi has been very consistent in this point about the script being the basis of the film. So the script must be gotten right. And we've been discussing it, even at IREP level, we talk about it a lot. And then, there was 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was the conference that was called by the School of Media and Communication, Pan-African University. And they brought the guild heads. In fact, they were not talking about script, but they brought the DGN president, the president of the Scriptwriters Association of Nigeria, I think the producer, the AMP president too. And a portion just caught my attention. It was a question that was posed to one of them, and then he spoke about why the script may look like it is a trouble. But there are so many levels of intervention that goes into that. Before what you see, many of us are able to condemn the script, but there are other factors of production that may affect what the people, what the film that finally comes out. And I remember that I read a story somewhere where somebody wrote a critique of a film, and it was saying, why would you introduce gun into a story that had been resolved? Now, this story was already resolved. All they need to do is just shake hand. Then he started hearing, pa, 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 ah. So he just lambasted the scriptwriter and said, this is the most incredible thing. And the guy had to come out to defend himself, to say, look, that was not even in my script. But the producer came and said, look, the language now is that people must carry gun. So he introduced gun. Just as we have heard in some corners too, that the film that became a popular talk of town was because they had to use gun. But they wanted action film. And what is action? Gun or car chase. And if you remember, we've had again in the past why Yoruba film must have Babasuwe. You have produced your film. This film must sell. Babasuwe, oh yeah. You just come in and abuse people, and then the end of story. So these are the critical interventions I want to examine. So I'll say that we should start with that clip, because many of us may not have heard it, and then it was like a preface to what we want to discuss here this evening. But it's in two-pronged. After here, we now go downstairs and see the work of Femi Odugbemi, because some of our own worries we deal with literacy, the literary art, and we always wonder why Nigerian novels, why Nigerian books, because Nigeria have published so many books, to the point that African Writers Series was turned to, it only became Nigerian Writers Series. Only Nigerians were writing and winning, and so we want to see how the film can speak to, how film can help in deepening literacy, helping us to understand better our cultural environment. So that's what we want to discuss. So I say welcome to all of you, and welcome to our guests online. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram Live. And many people have been there waiting for this particular session because of the nature of the person that we're talking about. So we play that clip in just about 6 minutes, and then I'll compose the stand there.
One of the biggest complaints I have heard about is that of scripting, screenwriting. About even among the, blockbuster films, right? There is always reports about, oh, there's a story hole, or this doesn't add up, or the writer this, or the writer that. What do these kinds of things mean to you, and how do you think they can be corrected going forward? Is it really the screenwriter's problem, or is it that the problems leave the hands of the writers and then become is that of scripting, screenwriting? Even among the, blockbuster films, right, there is always reports about, oh, there's a story hole, or this doesn't add up, or the writer this, or the writer that. What do these kinds of things mean to you, and how do you think they can be corrected going forward? Is it really the screenwriter's problem, or is it that the problems leave the hands of the writers and then becomes a director's problem? What are your thoughts on this particular thorny point, sir?
Okay, so I have a peculiar personal take on this. I think that at the end of the day, even though the storytelling process might be triggered by the responsibility might lay heavily on the writer, I think it's also a collaborative process.
Okay.
So what usually happens is the writer has written based on the interpretation of what the story is. The director has his interpretation, the producer has his own interpretation. Chances that if they all come together, pulling their ranks, they'll be able to check each other and come up with something that actually makes sense. But they're not assuming that these people I've mentioned to know what they're doing. Because again, you have filmmakers who critique stories and just say, I don't know what's wrong, I'm not just feeling it. How do you say that? You're supposed to be a filmmaker. You're supposed to know. You're supposed to tell me what is wrong. But beyond that, I think that sometimes we do not really, a lot of people don't really respect what the writers bring to the table. They do not respect skill, they do not respect experience. And so for a lot of them, they feel writers are at the bottom of the food chain. So anybody can write. They come approach you with this, anybody can write. Shebi is just to write. But there are people, I'm not saying that, I believe that, people need to get chances to move to the next level. But the truth of it is that if you give me 10 million naira to produce a film, I know the directors I will call. If you give me 60 million, I know the directors I will call. If you give me 200 million, and I know that if the film bombs, I know I cannot hide from you. I know the directors I will call. Because I know that these ones can do a good job. And the truth about it, which a lot of youngsters don't even understand, is look, if I have a 200 million naira budget for a film, there are certain directors I will call to direct. Because even if at the end of the day it's not a blockbuster, my financiers are not going to kill me because they'll say, oh, okay, it was this person that directed it. The person is synonymous with success.
Yeah.
But if I have a 200 million naira project and I call one Paul Obishade that nobody knows, if it bombs, serious trouble. They're going to ask you, you didn't see these other people. But if it's a success, then they will say, oh God, I'm so perceptive, and this, I'll be healed. So, is it worth the risk? No. I'd rather go with the big names who I'm sure can deliver and all that. So, bottom line, rounding all this up, I think that to a very large extent, when we blame writers, we need to be very careful because sometimes it is not what has been written. Sometimes it is the way it has been directed. Sometimes it is because you don't have the actual budget to actualize what has been written, so it comes across as stupid. And then the audience are not that discerning. They don't know the difference. They can't tell, okay, this is the writer's fault, this is the director's fault, this is the fault of the budgeting. But the easiest person to just lay the blame at is the writer. I know sometimes there's some writers who don't get it right, and all that. But yeah, that happens. But most of the time, especially like you say with the big shows, I think that we're beginning to tell good stories. Yes, 5, 6, 8, 10 years ago maybe, but recently, yes. I mean, Nigerian film just made #1 globally. It was written by a human being, a Nigerian human being. You understand? So we are getting better. I think that the stories, if you look at most of the stories that make it to the platforms, they're better stories than they used to be. So there's improvement. It's gradual, but it's steady. There's improvement. But sometimes people just can't tell the difference between what is the writer's fault and what is the fault of someone else. I'm not saying it has to be the director or the producer, but I think that generally people should start to cut us slack, because we are telling much better stories now than we used to. And moreover, all these people, they will come and they will say all kinds of things. Look, the bottom line is, if a man is paid 300,000 to write a script, given a short period of time to churn it out, what exactly are you expecting from him? He can't do as much research as he would have loved to do. And then you've not given him enough time, because people will come, okay, I want this script next week. So you just go to zap it. It's first draft, you take it and do. So I think with all these few points, we've come to realize that it's not a clear-cut issue as might seem. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for that. That is extremely useful. And one of the things that jumped...
Thank you very much. That's the clip we wanted you to hear. I think there's a lot packed in that brief clip about the relationship between the script and the final production. The script and the director, the script writer and the director, the script writer and the producer, and then the script writer, the director, the producer, because the director too still has to do some answering. And I say this because of some privilege I had listening to B. Bandele on Death and the King's Horseman. This guy said, that is not my film. And he almost declared, I do not want to see that film. He said so. And he said I should bring him to Wole Soyinka. You need to go and explain. I said, no, let the man see your work. He will say it if he doesn't like it or not. He said, no. I don't want my teacher to see that as what I can produce, because the story has been changed according to him. So many things have been redrafted and co. I tell people that I happen to have the last dinner, probably with B, and I can't forget that experience at Terra Culture. I gave him tea to drink. Well, what myself and Femi were just whispering there is that, look, there's so many things we have to continue conversations like this, because it gives us education. We're happy that all of you are here, so thank you. I would just, the voice that you heard is of Yinka Ogun, President of the Scriptwriters Association of Nigeria. No, I'm bringing you out here. I will now throw my Baba Salah joke. Yes. And then I'll bring that's the president of Scriptwriters, President, right? Association of Nigeria. But I've known him all my life, and maybe one thing I can say is that I knew Yinka with Femi Odugbemi. So it's like the two of them have been on for forever. I think the first time was in his office, actually, when we met at some pitching. And he's been doing it consistently, and it's one of the most popular, most important scriptwriters for Nigerian films. So I'm not surprised that he's the president of Nigeria. And the president of the Directors Guild of Nigeria. Someone said that the only time DGN started having real mouth was when Dr. Victor Hai, became the... Because sometimes when we put an intellectual in charge of something, they have a way of changing the dynamics of the conversation. I have to come up with my generation. It's not like in the past when you have presidents of guilds and you call them and they came to fight. Shaibu, you moderated the session here where they were about to throw table. You said, no, let's just talk. Don't throw table here. So, and then to moderate this is one I believe has written the most consistently on film. And he has gone ahead to earn his PhD in mass communication, where he has written, I've told him that those terms of interview, if they don't come out, you will be in trouble. And you know the kind of trouble, I'll go to his house and fight. Shaibu Hussaini, Dr. Shaibu Hussaini. He had to make a sacrifice today. He also teaches at the University of Lagos. Apart from being, he can't dance anymore. He was one of the best dancers at National. He can't dance anymore. So he was supposed to have a semester exam for his students today. He had to cancel it. Thank you very much, Shaibu. Because he was brought in just this afternoon. Because the person to do it took a tour. The third person that should have been here, who was also part of that experience, was the president of the Association of Movie Producers. I reached out to her, but she said she's burying an aunt this weekend. So she had to leave Lagos. So, but I think it's more about the scriptwriter and the director kind of thing. And then some of us who are producers will make an interjection. Having said that, let me just quickly say that I have a friend in the house from Germany, Peter Boehm, who is also a scriptwriter himself. Peter, thank you very much. And he's working on a film, very interesting film. He was there 15, 16 years ago when he did a film on, he did that research on, if I mention it, you'll be surprised. The Fred Ajudua Adebende story. That was the guy who went to EFCC, broke into there just for research, just to write a script. If you know the story about those 4 Nigerians who scammed Gaddafi, that's the guy who brought it out. Just to tell you the power of research and the kind of work we do. We also have Professor Stephanie here, all the way from New York, who decided to come here. These two are Lagosians, because she's been writing a book on Lagos. Eko. Thank you very much, Prof, for being here. So everybody, you are welcome. I would like to move the people here. Please come here. I know you are charging. They don't have light at all. They have to come and charge their phone here. If you know you are not charging your phone, stand up. They have no light at all. You know what people do now? They go to church with rechargeable lamp and phone. Now churches are now collecting money. Yes, churches are collecting money for you to charge your phone. Well, thank you very much. The rest is with Shaibu Hussaini. I welcome our chairman, Chief Kade Adeoyoko. He's been here all day. He escaped to go and eat. This is the one Femi Odubemi refused to give Hollywood role. He has come to the studio like 10 times. You have not given him the role. You are still waiting. Shaibu Hussaini, please take off.
All right. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm really honored to be here. Editor, I don't know, I'm not too qualified to call him by his name, German, but I've always called him editor all my life, and I think I'll continue to call him. Editor, I was preparing to go for my 8 a.m. class this morning, and I woke up at 5, and I didn't want to go near the phone. So I wanted to just check, you know, whether the class rep had called to say there will be no class because of the strike. But I remember that in the night the strike was called off. So I now saw a text and said that we're doing something today and they wanted me to come and be part of it. I really did not know about it. And not only to be part of it, he wanted me to moderate the session. I just say, hey, that was my initial reaction. But because I never have, I cannot say a no to German because he never said no to me throughout the time I worked under him when he was editor at The Guardian. And also because the personality he mentioned that we are celebrating today is somebody that I consider more than an egbon, but like a father. Because I follow him, I read him, I hear him, I monitor him, but not that kind of monitoring, no. Not in this. I follow him anywhere. I read him. I can tell you the story of this storyteller because I really follow him. We may not be seeing every day or calling on the phone, but the thing I like about him is that each time you get across to Uncle Femi, he leaves you with something that will be good for your career and your life. So Uncle Femi, congratulations again. Happy 60th. It's so nice to be here. So we're here for this panel, a very important panel on storytelling. And I'm not surprised that the people that we have on the panel, they were carefully selected. And these are people that can speak authoritatively on this topic. Nollywood started, you know, with everyone trying to make one story or the other. And at the time they started, I remember that in those early days, Dr. Victor Kai can allude to this. There was a lot of talk about scripting, having script conferences, and all that before shoot is done. Hardly will you hear that a story was done and somebody will come at the end of the day and say, oh, this is not how the story was. This is not what was intended and the rest of them. But we have come a long way, and like Yinka Ogun said in that interview, that we have really come a long way. But to set the ball rolling, I really want to start not with Yinka this time because we've heard him. Yinka is an authority in that area and is the president of the Scriptwriters Guild. So I will just turn to Dr. Victor Kai. It doesn't come easy at all. Dr. Victor Kai, I turn to him. Maybe we'll begin by finding out the state of scripting in Nollywood, in the Nigerian film industry. What's your assessment of the state of scripting in the Nigerian film industry? And maybe before he says that, you know that they keep saying script writing, and the rest of them. Maybe later, Yinka Ogun will give us a distinction between the scriptwriter and the screenplayer. Maybe later we'll talk about that. Assessment of the state of scripting or storytelling in Nollywood.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Oseni. You'll permit me to do this, because I don't know if there'll be time to do it. But please, I just want us to stand up and put our hands together for the man of the moment. My leader, my oga, my boss for life, Mr. Fem Odugbemi. Thank you very much, sir. God bless you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I do this not because, we are largely celebrated in this country. I know a lot of people who have left this country. I'll answer your question, but permit me. A lot of people have jackpot, left this country, and they are professors in some of the best universities in the US and across the globe. He has remained here. He could have been the best anywhere he went to. I want to apologize that we have not celebrated you the way we should, sir. But we appreciate the fact that you have stayed back. You have touched lives. You continue to do that. I can speak about myself because I worked under you, under your leadership, and I'm truly grateful for our paths crossing. I don't know what to say, but God bless you. And we celebrate you today. Thank you very much. That said, your question is about the state of let me just say the script today in today's movie industry. It is said that that if you have a bad script, that no amount of magic can make a great movie out of it. But with a very good script, even with average work, that movie will go places. It is a fact because the script is a foundation. It's like in architecture, the vision, what is conceived and put down on paper is what you see finally on the screen. And so if you get a good design, even with a bad builder, that building may not look too terrible. But if you have a horrible design, you might get the best builder, it still will make that building beautiful. And in fact, if there are defects, it will become very obvious. We have not given sufficient credit to our scriptwriters in this country. I listened to Yinka talking there, and I know he spoke from a position of pain in his heart, where it's like they are not appreciated as much as they should. Again, I apologize, sir. It is a fact. Once the script is written, and then the property is collected, from that point on, in fact, it's the celebrities, the stars that we remember. We don't even remember those who work. We don't even remember the foundation, the architect, the script writers, or even the directors who bring it to the screen. But if we are on Netflix today and if the world is celebrating our stories, it is because we are telling better stories. And it's because we are saying something that the world wants to see and hear. If we were to look at what pioneers, not necessarily in script writing, but in writing generally, like Chinua Achebe, let me use his seminal work, Things Fall Apart, for instance, that has been interpreted into so many languages globally. I doubt if there's any literate person alive today who has not, in one way or another, encountered that piece of literature, Things Fall Apart. And what makes it unique is the fact that we're able to tell our own stories. What you have is what makes you unique and different, not telling another person's story. Our rich culture, our rich heritage, who we are, intrigues other people because they see a whole new world that is completely different from theirs. It's like looking at fantasy. What you don't understand is like fantasy, and which is why children have, you know, when you see children's books, it takes you into a world that you don't understand. It fascinates you. You get intrigued by it. I can tell you that that's how the world sees literature and the kind of stories that are emerging from this part of the world today. Amos Tutuola, for instance, bad as the language of the book is, how many of you have read The Palm Wine Drinkard here? It wasn't about the English, because that is just a package. It was about the world he was taking us to, completely mystical, different, fantasy. That's what happens when we tell our stories. And our scriptwriters, especially our current scriptwriters, have been able to do that through the kind of stories we're telling. Now, when you watch King of Boys, when you watch The Wedding Party, let me use The Wedding Party as an example. It immediately transports people from the West or the global North into a world that they don't understand. you see the colors, you see, you know, the tapestry against which that story was told, rich tradition, you know, and all of that. It was intriguing, and that was what made it fascinating for people to watch. This could not have happened without our storytellers. And so a lot is happening. What is happening now is that we are now carrying our, how do I put it now, our Tales by Moonlight and transforming it into the silver screen and into the palm top, where there's a convergence of media right now, whether on your palm top or on the streamers, on the internet and all that. And people are beginning to see us in a way that they never did before. And so just like Afrobeats, unique sounds, unique images, unique stories, unique traditions are being transported. And so that is the reason today on the big streaming platforms, there's a huge acceptance of what is happening in this part of the world.
All right, thank you, Dr. Kai. Yinka, Dr. Kai had given more than a pass mark to scriptwriters, you know, today. He talked about the fact that some of the movies we see today are a reflection of how we have grown when it comes to the area of script writing. But the Uncle Femi that we're celebrating today has been a very strong advocate for telling authentic story, especially stories that are told with good content and in context. The ones that derive their materials from a deep research of the environment where we come from, you know, especially from where these movies are consumed, which is Nigeria. Would you say that the crop of script storytellers that we have today, you know, present to us stories that you consider very authentic, stories that, you know, are written within the context of our, you know, environment, you know, they pick elements from the environment and really present these things the way they are supposed to present? In other words, are some of these stories well researched?
Remember, I'm the president of a guild. Okay, I think first I would say the Nigerian scriptwriter, or generally scriptwriting in Nigeria, is still work in progress. We've come a long way. We still have a bit of a distance to go. In terms of research, adequate research, two things fuel research: proper funding or a desire by the writer to excel, to produce a work that can be heralded globally. It is those two things, and most of the times, the first one is not in existence. So it now takes a writer who wants more to go out of their way to do research. Or once in a while, you find a producer who understands the need for that. But I think even if a producer understands the need and creates the enabling environment, it's left to the writer. So I'll give you an example. Years back, I wrote, when I was writing Abeni for Tunde Kilani, so I had to go to Cotonou to get a feel. Now, what's a feel? A feel could be in my hotel room, just eating in my hotel room and watching TV. I would have felt Cotonou. But being the over-adventurous kind of person I was, I went out. I hung out with the locals and everything. And it's interesting, one of the things I put there in the story, I discovered that we get our frozen chicken from Cotonou, but they don't eat frozen chicken. They eat local chicken. Now, if I'd been stuck in my hotel room, I would not have found out. those little things, you understand, those nuances, those things come up when you do research. And people always assume research is hours behind your laptop. Yes, there is stuff that you will get on the laptop. But sometimes when you go out there, you mingle with the people, you talk to the people, there is a lot. I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about documentary filmmaking. When you get there, your intention was to ask about the witch that they found 3 years ago. But you now discover that, oh, they've actually found 4 other witches in the past. And it's different, but if you just sat down and stuck yourself with what was on the internet, you might not see that. So, back to your question. Unfortunately, from what I see of a lot of young writers, a lot of them don't have that desire to, you know when you're writing a script and you want to impress the person reading it, you want to impress the producer, impress the director. I don't know what has changed. When I was writing, I used to want to go out of my way to impress people like Efo, Tajuddin, and co. So you're writing and you're rewriting. So you're hoping that when they read and they chuckle, you're like, yes, I got him there. But I'm reading scripts these days and I don't see that effort. People just want to get to page 90-something, get to page 100 and something. So I don't know. I think there's a need for a reorientation. People need to understand that now that we're saying we want to get to the global stage, it will not happen automatically. These are the little things. You know, you talked about Black Book and all those kind of things, and it's something FO has said repeatedly. I don't have the gift of words like he has. You know, he has this way of spinning this thing, and it will come out sounding like it was fried and cooked. But what he essentially says is about telling African stories in a globally relatable way. So, if you tell your stories in a globally relatable way, and you research enough so that you have enough of those African nuances, you can't get it wrong. So I think that we just need a reorientation. The young writers, they need to understand that you need to research these things. Stop taking things for granted. Don't assume. Find out. When you'll be shocked what will happen when you go out of your way to find out. Not only will you be authentic, but you will come up with a different spin that will give your story a unique angle that makes it even more appreciated than it could instinctively be.
Yeah, research and the need for us to have, a new orientation as to how to tell a story. I've interacted with a number of storytellers, scriptwriters, who will tell me after maybe we come out from a premiere, and I'll say, why is this something like this? He said, honestly, this is not in my script. And I'm wondering, as president of Directors Guild of Nigeria, if a film fails, who should we shoot? The scriptwriter or the scriptwriter or the director? Because you hear most of the time, like the example that German cited. German said the film has ended and somebody decided to come up with a gun or something after the film has ended. In fact, I watched one funny one. A particular leading actress was not in the story at all. There was no backstory that said that the family had a child that was in US and the rest. This film has finished. I was just expecting to God be the glory. Then I now saw a car. A car pulled off. And then from the car I saw legs. You know those things they tell us in Chinese film about Ganga is coming. Actor is coming. Film has ended. I now saw legs. Then when I was seeing the legs pan, and then I now saw this actress. Then the mama that was wailing on the floor, that good has taken over evil, now stood up and say, hey, my child, you appeared. And now say, appeared. I now went back to the start of the film. There was nowhere where we were told that that the child was kidnapped or the child went somewhere and the rest of them. When we have those kind of films, who should we shoot? Should I go and look for a Yinka Ogun, or should I go for the head of the director?
Let me crack a joke. Have you noticed something? If I asked him what the rest of the story was, he does not remember, but he never forgot this. What a hook. I wish I would have the courage to do that in my you know, for whatever it's worth, let me start with something. And directors here in the house would know what I'm talking about. There's such a thing as director's cut. When you hear director's cut, let me say it in pidgin English. I hope the white people here will understand and appreciate what I'm saying. It just simply means, in case this is one I actually edited, that one that was released is not what I edited. This is the story I told. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So when you hear director's cut, this is like saying, this is what I edited. What the studio released may be a different thing. So if anybody ever comes and says, why did you do rubbish? You say, guy, please, do you have the time? Watch this and you can judge me by it. How many of you here can relate, who are directors, who know what I'm talking about? If you've worked with big studios, and I'll tell you this, I've been a victim of this. You know, it happened to me once, it happened a second time, and I said, never again. I will never, if I'm not doing my own project, forget it. Or you pay the price, you have to pay enough for me to be able to, and I must reach a contract with you before I attempt it. The first time it happened, and I want to share this with you. You see, some producers will come and then you would have done the job, completed it, and you're waiting to be invited to the studio for post-production. And then the next thing I saw was the job had been finished. I'm like, what? There was a certain way I had taken the shots, and it was in my mind. I built a vision of how I wanted to, in terms of pacing and in terms of the way I wanted, that thing cut to be able to tell the story. And there was no way they could read what was in my mind. How can you sit down and tell me you finished, you've done it? And I was in a conversation with Jama just told us about what happened to B. Bandele. There were scenes that he never even planned. It also happened to me. They went behind me and they shot other things and added,
Added to the film.
Added to it. Without my knowledge, without my...
Out of the initial script.
Out of it.
Wow.
And then I said, it can destroy, I kid you not. Because if you're a creator, and if your name is going to be attached to a thing like that, it can be destructive. It happens not just here, even in Hollywood it happens. Which is where the concept of director's cut comes in. The studios may just have their own. You do what you have, what will be released may be a bit different. I don't know, can you relate? I don't know if it happens in Germany, does it? It shouldn't, thank you. It can happen, but it shouldn't. What about you, ma'am? It happens? Please say it loud. I want to know that.
They say it happens, but it shouldn't happen.
No. She says it happens. It says it can happen, but it shouldn't. That's been idealistic. It may not be realistic. She said it happens. So she's, So who else? Can you relate, sir? Are you a director? Or you're not? So it could happen. And for some who work with streamers or organizations like Africa Magic, Ogami, can it happen? Even with Africa Magic, where... Okay, sorry. No, let me explain what I mean. Okay, let me not put you in a sport, sorry. Oh, sorry, please. Let me say this. I've heard people who say they have shot, and then they say they have their own editors. So you may shoot what you want, the editors determine the final look and feel. Is that... Oh, thank you. I wanted to make sure that what I'm saying does not sound strange. So he has said it happens everywhere. So that said, these things can happen, and they do happen. Sometimes it depends on the strength. Sometimes you have to be a very, very powerful director to be able to negotiate from the beginning and say, you can't touch my work. But you don't always have that privilege. You don't always have it. The studios, the producers sometimes are so powerful, they will say, look, you've done your bit, thank you, here's your money. We have a concept of how we want, which relates to what you just said. That woman may have been the financier. Now this happens in this industry. And I know I settled a case recently. There are some people who are not even in our industry at all. They want their faces on the screen so that they can be marketable in whatever else they're doing. Do you understand what I'm saying? They just want that face so that when they go to airports, they will be given, doors will open for them. When they go around, it's not for anything. They are not, it's not like they are actresses, especially women who, sorry, excuse me. They are the ones that are most guilty. They bring the money, they finance it, and they want to play the leading role in it. And as a director, you look at it, what do you do? Now, there's this big thing between what you think is right, and then you look at the money and you look at it, and you say, okay, can we manage her in the role and all that? So what you saw could have been that. So it happens. The director is also a writer, but a visual storyteller. So it takes the script and then translates it to the screen. I don't know if your question, okay, you asked two-pronged question, what we do to the writers and what happens to us as well. So I've just spoken more about the director also. But about the writer may want to say, oh, that's not what I wrote. That's his alibi for what may have come on the screen. But it is also important for the writer to understand that as soon as he finishes writing, quite frankly, you hand over, your job ends there. From that point, the visual storyteller, the interpreter, is the director. From that point, he takes the work, but there must be mutual respect. I agree, But he takes that work, and like the builder with an architect, somebody may have designed the house anyhow. He does not understand. It may not have been with the topography in mind. An architect, I just... But if you're there and you see the topography, then you can write to it. You can design to it. But you could have just done it. You may not always have that privilege like the architect may have to see all the undulating things and build to it. But even if you do, a soil test may prove different. I know where I live today. What I had in mind was a duplex. But when we got there, did the soil test and everything, the most sensible thing to do at that point in time was a bungalow. And I did. And I've been living peacefully after, while others are... You understand what I'm saying? So that's a director's job, like a builder. So you look at it and you respond to the environment, the physical environment, and it could even be building plans or whatever the things are around. You may have written something into a script that I'm going to the census board and I know that, or something may have happened just before we shot, that may make that thing too sensitive, and I may have to rework that script to suit, either the environment or what may be trending or what may work. So that happens. But the usual thing is, when you want to do that, it's always good to work with your writers so that everything is done in context, which means that the writer who has written the script, even if he's adjusting it, he would adjust it in such a way that everything ties in at the end of the day. I think that's the kind of relationship we should be having, the kind of partnership that we should be having, so that at the end of the day, the writer does not deny his work or the director.
All right, this panel is supposed to actually focus on the challenges of scripting in the industry. And these things are very clear. In fact, in the introductory video that was played, the president of the guild pointed to some of the challenges to include sometimes poor research, funding, and the rest. So my question to the president, what can we do to address some of these challenges? And what is the Guild particularly doing to address this challenge? We have a lot of people coming up now. In fact, I see a lot of screen credits, and I cannot be able to place my those names. That is not to say that you cannot write a script and give someone to produce. But my only challenge is that some of these people sit down, perhaps in Lagos, and then they are writing about Kanu that they have no idea of, but maybe they have just read, maybe they have just stumbled on a book on Kanu or on the internet and all that. And then they just write about Kanu. Some of the words they are putting into people's mouths are not correct and the rest. Because we have heard a lot of people who have written things into script that they have little knowledge about, especially people who write about things to do with Ifa divination, things to do with religion and the rest of them. So what can we do to address the challenges of scripting in the Nollywood industry? And what is the Guild particularly doing to address some of these challenges?
Okay, thank you very much. Before I answer your question, I want to bring something to your notice. You asked Mr. Ohai a question and he didn't answer. So me, I will answer. Kill directors.
Kill directors?
Not writers. You didn't answer. You asked, is it?
He actually,
no,
maybe I missed it.
No,
Say it, and I can answer it.
That I said, if a film fails, who should we shoot? The script writer or the director?
Okay, very good. Please, let me just take that. Let me take that. No, you have said it that I didn't answer it. So it means I ought to answer it.
No, just answer it like direct. You have already given us the background.
No.
Okay, all right. Okay, go ahead.
You see that screen? Eh? Everything you see there are so many elements, what we call the mise en scène. There's the production design, there are the actors, there is lighting, there is sound, there is all of that the director employs to tell his story. If I take your question literally, if a film fails, I would say literally, you're talking commercially, blame the producer. Eh? Literally. But, if...
Artistically, no.
Very good. That's why I'm separating them. That's why I cannot have one answer to it.
Go ahead, sir.
I'll save my never. So, artistically, what would you call failure? What do you call it now? Mami Water went to the cinemas. It's an art house movie. Artistically, no, not artistically. Okay, you might say commercially. Yes, commercially. No, but when you say artistically, commercially here, the ordinary person who may not even have that elevated appreciation for art house films would consider that a failure. So waiting be this. What is this?
Okay, my own.
So it could be subjective. No. Art
you
is
have
also
answered
subjective.
one. You have answered one.
Art is subjective.
Hold on, President.
It's subjective.
President, you said commercially we blame the producers.
Yes.
So what if I'm queuing up at the National Theatre like we used to do in the days of the 80s and the 90s to watch films at the National Theatre? And like I normally do, I don't watch first show, which starts at 12 o'clock. I wait for the 3 o'clock show. So I'm on the queue waiting to enter the 3 o'clock because the next show is 6 o'clock. And people come out. And the first thing I ask them, how is the film? He say, Kodunjo. They are not talking about Kodunjo, so they are looking at the content.
Okay, let me answer.
Which the content is what the scriptwriter wrote.
I will answer you. It's not difficult. I don't know how true this is, but when I was...
Oh, it's true.
Well, no, hear me. Don't be quick to judge. You have not heard what I'm about to say now.
Go ahead, President.
I was told yesterday.
Yes.
There was a panel where Film One and some other people were at the event at Radisson Blue yesterday. And someone told me that Editi had taken Black Book to Film One and they rejected it. Today, it became the biggest thing on Netflix. Kodunjo is subjective. Art is subjective. That will be my answer.
Okay. Yes.
Yes.
Especially this Black Book. Sorry, there's another thing I'd like. Especially that Black Book example you gave. There's a different audience on each platform.
Of course.
So the audience that comes out from the 12 o'clock show may not be the audience that comes into the 3 o'clock show, but more so, the audience that watches the streamers from their home is not the audience that goes to the cinema.
Yeah. I
So, you know, rejecting Black Book might be good for them.
Yeah. No,
And so
thank
on
you.
and
That's
so
why I
on.
say it's subjective.
Yes.
And subjective means that the general opinion may not be objective. What you say you don't like, maybe somebody else's, you know.
But just to add to what...
Yes. They were the funders to Netflix. They aggregated it for Netflix. They may say that. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So the reason they did what?
They wanted to work on it.
Yes.
So the first draft
Yes.
wasn't right.
Yes.
Yes.
And they felt maybe if they put it in the theater, it may not. Yes. Yeah.
There was something that
Yeah. Yeah.
But would you say that with the benefit of hindsight, Film One will regret not putting that thing in the cinema?
I even feel that if you had put, I even feel that if
Look,
you
there are
had put it in
films.
cinema.
There are films that Film One says, no, I want this film to go to cinema
Yes.
before the streamers, and there are films that it's the other way around. I mean,
Yeah.
but just to add to what you said before, Victor, and I'm sure everybody here knows this, especially our veteran ones. There's a very strong saying that you can make a great. So you cannot make a great film if your director is very, very good, but the script is bad. You cannot make a great
No, I said
film.
so earlier. That was
But
the
it can be the
foundation.
other way around. Okay, you said it.
I said it, yes.
I'll take it back.
Thank you.
All right. All right. So let's go. So he has answered now.
Yeah, I've forgotten the question.
You said.
No, let's move on. Let's move on.
Okay,
Ask
he
him
said.
his question.
He said, Uncle Tio, recognize your presence here.
Recognize
Welcome,
you,
sir.
sir.
All right.
No, you talked about script writing research and what
Yes,
the
we,
is doing.
we said he answered the question and said they should shoot everybody that is involved. He has accepted that they should shoot producers, they should also shoot directors, and I'm sure he didn't want to say script writer because you are here. So that's what. So, and then the other question is that there are obvious challenges, in the industry, especially from that very foundation. If you don't get the script right, you will not even start talking about a film. So we have identified all these challenges to include the fact that research is not extensive enough, the fact that some people just, because of the high cost of paying big names like Yinka Ogun, they'll just go and look for somebody by the side to write scripts and the rest of them. What can we do to help? What are those challenges first? What are the other challenges beyond these two I've mentioned? And what can we do to address these challenges? Because script is a foundation. And if the foundation is not right, the house cannot stand. We have seen very great scripts turn out to be very great motion picture, at the end of the day. And we have seen very great scripts that are not well interpreted. But we're not even looking at the issue of interpretation now. We're looking at the fact that, some people can come out from the cinema and say, that was a very good story, but maybe the interpretation was, a problem. So that's what we are, because this panel is about addressing the challenges of scripting.
Okay, so I think that capacity building is a very, very important factor. A lot of people just get into writing. Now, it's okay to get into writing, but at some point, you must really get some kind of education about it. you don't have to go to a formal school and spend 5, 6 years. There are different kinds of opportunities are, abound out there. But it is best that you actually learn how to write, learn how to tell stories. Now, I didn't understand the importance of this. For me, I've been particularly lucky in my career because very early in my career, I passed through the hands of people who knew what they wanted, who knew what it was really about, and they didn't let me get away with stuff. So I'm writing in Nollywood, I'm writing 5 episodes overnight. The director is calling me to thank me. Then Femi Odubemi is making me write one script 4, 5 times. So thankfully for me, I had a balance. But imagine if I only had that side of it. Then I wouldn't instinctively learn to scratch beneath the surface for the story beneath the story. So it is important you have some kind of education. It could be intense mentorship, but you need education. So this year, for the first 9 months or so of this year, I was head of department, screenwriting at the Ebony Life Creative Academy. And I tell you that in those 9 months, I learned more. I became a better writer than all these years. Because to teach, you must learn. And in learning, I discovered so much. And in giving examples, I started to realize why this Hollywood stories somehow made more sense. Because even in crafting it from day one, they tell you a New York City cop who is losing his sight must crack the case of the lifetime. You see, personally, he's dealing with the loss of his sight. So there's instinctively a race against time. You are rooting for him. Oh my goodness, he must not lose his sight before he does it. Then he wants to crack this case so that he can live with a Medal of Honor. That instinctively already creates room for character development. You understand? Because you're rooting for the case, but you're rooting for him also. So, and you know, sometimes, well, some of us, sometimes people are lucky, you stumble on that one story you seem to get right. But if you understand the formula, if you understand how these things really work, then you consistently do it. And it won't come to you in a dream. It's either you're going to learn it in some kind of formal or informal school, or, like I said, intense mentorship. So we need that, because if we have that, instinctively we start to tell better stories. Our stories are not, will no longer be flat. You understand? We will see the characters develop. We will understand the need to actually develop the characters, not, oh, it's going to be a boy, so you start to write the script. What is this boy about? Where is he coming from? Where is he going to? What does he want? So I think that capacity building will do a lot. And I think that also adequate capacity building will instill a sense of professionalism. You just want to do things right. And so when you're writing about a medical doctor, not only will you do adequate research, but you will also call your friend who is a medical doctor and say, what do you think? And then they will say, okay, it's nice, but no doctor will say this. Aha, so you know. But all the research on the internet will not tell you that. This mentorship, you understand, being able to actually have time with people who have experience. So those are the things we're looking at the Guild. But of course, there's just so much we can do. Because again, we can create all the capacity building opportunities for members of the Guild, but remember, the members of the Guild are about 25% of the practicing writers in Nigeria. So in as much as we will improve their skill, but because they're just 25%, you will still end up with a situation of Odu, Odu, Kodu, 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 Odu. Thank you.
All right, so yes, okay. We'll take some interventions from the floor and then we'll come back to Dr. Kai to also give us his notes on how we can address the challenges of storytelling and script writing in the industry.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
No, I wanted to quickly ask this so that
yes,
before it sort of drifts away.
Okay.
You know, because we started with that line that German had about B. Bandele.
Yes.
Okay. Yinka is here. You know, she can be. Okay, so we started with that line, but my own response to that line is just because the scriptwriter, and B. Bandele was not just scriptwriter, he was in charge, supposedly.
He was the director.
Just because he said that, you know, they intervened in his film, doesn't mean that he had actually made an amazing film in the first place, right? I mean, the first critique, no, I'm not knocking.
No, go ahead.
The first critique I had of the film, you know, before I saw it, was, and now I'm saying that Professor Ochoenka was wondering if that was actually a televised version of his, you know, I mean, and that doesn't resonate with that line about whether somebody touched, because from what he was saying, there was so much. It was so keen on putting everything in the movie. So I'm not. I mean, he's late now and he can't defend himself. But the question I want to ask, because you guys have been focusing on the movie, a single movie. I'm not very good with single movies. I watch soaps a lot. And that's where my own challenges with the Nigerian whole thing is. That's why I want to ask this question, whether we actually can differentiate in terms of scripting between, you know, your one movie, a series, you know, which is 7 or 8, like Zulu, you know, and, you know, this 260 episode thing. Are we allowed to forgive this 260 episode thing for flagging for most of the time? You know, I mean, that's the question I want to ask. Is that a scripting challenge?
No, sir.
When, you know, because at some
may
point you then begin to wonder what is
can you just put this one
Scripting.
as something you will respond to,
okay,
and
so
then we'll
thank
take
you.
these two orders so that we'll take. Okay.
My name is Charles Ezekiel. I'm a film editor, also I'm a DOP cinematographer, and I direct once in a while.
Wow.
So my question is to you, sir. I wish a producer was here, because normally they're the one. Even if you go to do all the training, it's what the producer says, because they are the one that puts their money into it. So my question is this, sir. Some producers will give you a scriptwriter like, okay, do this story around this actor, or do this story for just 2 actors or 5 actors or 1 location. You understand? All those things are serious, a challenge. You understand? To give a better story. So, what are you guys doing to partner with these producers so that you guys can give good stories and will not be restricted to a lot of unnecessary things?
Can I answer?
All right. So please just hold on. We will take all those interventions so that we don't lose track. Go ahead.
Don't get too much. Can I?
Yes, that's what I say. Go ahead.
Okay, so you said there's this Chinese saying that goes, "He who pays the piper dictates the tune." Have you heard of it? Have you heard of it? That he who pays the piper dictates the tune. So unfortunately, there's sort of like a hierarchy in the film industry. You understand? As you go higher, it becomes more professional. But at a lower level, you might not get that level of professionalism, and there's undue interference. But at the end of the day, too, sometimes it's also because the audience at that level are not so discerning and so demanding. So a lot of things go on. It's not a new thing. In the heydays when we're starting out, some footballer will come from outside the country and say they want to shoot a film. And what's the story? Come up with the story. They don't care. The most important thing is that they're playing lead and there must be 2 kissing scenes with Genevieve. Trust me. That's it. That's all they're bothered about. They don't even care if that film is never released. So it's not today. Those things happen. But as you get higher, I don't think this kind of things you're talking about will happen on African Magic sets or Netflix original and all that stuff. So there's not much anybody can do. He can't do much. I can't do much. Because the producer, with his money, his own is, once he knows where to sell that product and make money, how do you convince him otherwise? You can't. And sir, what you said about stories dragging and all those kind of things and the 260s and everything, unfortunately, it's not just our own, even the American soaps. Because you find that a girl will say, I'm going to go in there and tell John I love him. And in that episode, she will not leave that room. As she's going, someone will come and say, hi, Jane. I say, oh, and she will talk. She has not gone. Next time you come back here, something happens, she's going there to tell John. She still will not leave. So you have to understand, it is soap. It sort of crawls. Sometimes it's done so beautifully. You know that most soaps are character driven. So by the time you go through a lot of characters and come back, it doesn't hit you that nobody has really moved. But if you're not going around a lot of people and there are no interesting things happening, then it's dawning upon you. So maybe the lesson, maybe what we want to tell our people. Okay, so maybe I didn't get what you... But I thought you were talking about things being so slow-paced and all that. Yes, sir.
Go ahead, sir.
So it can also be that a formula comes that, every time, because even if you are dragging, there should be an argument for that drag. I don't see a lot of arguments with people who die in every episode. There will be some, I can see, I can understand it when you've, at least even if it's 1 or 2 lines, you've prepared, you basically, not preparing me, no. You basically provided a context for some of these things. But a lot of the time, I just see things happen. I just see, wonder, oh, okay, this one has killed it. Every time I put on the TV, I'm seeing that somebody were in the dark scene. Why? So I then put it off. Maybe I'm not a very good, but the thing is that it seems like these soaps then resort to some of those elements, and it's not the kind of
No.
Because I watch South African soap, I'm very sorry. And I see, even in that drag, I see something. You know? So I'm very, very particular about some of these things.
Yeah, and you said something about sometimes the way people die.
There's a lot of dying in Zulu, but there's always an argument for that death. I see the poetry of the death. I empathize with the death.
I understand. Let me just quickly say this. I can't make excuses, but I do know that sometimes people find themselves in extremely peculiar situations, like Mr. Ohai found himself years ago on doctor's quarters. and we were rewriting because almost every 3 days somebody was leaving, one cast was leaving. And if you have that kind of turnover, how can you prepare? Sometimes you just can't prepare because someone just comes and says, I'm not doing again. And you have to think up a new story. As that story is just landing and you're going, finally, then they call you and say, so person too has left. That was his experience, so I don't know.
All right, so we'll take these 3 reactions, 1, 2, 3, 4, because we need to round up. We need to go see films. So let's take those 3 reactions, contributions or questions, and then we'll go.
Okay, thank you very much. There are 2 questions, majorly for the script writer.
And also the director.
Of course, I'm the director, because I've been involved in 2 movies behind it. Yes, I love the script. However, writers for movies, we have script writers for series, we have script writers for theater productions. Now, can a script writer be all and all? Because, you know what, unfortunately, when a Nigerian film is overhyped, that is when I do not watch it. Because when you ask them, you say, did you see the scene where this person did this? Did you see the scene where that person did that? What is the essence of the story? They say, oh, the person was a series director, that's why he didn't know how to do it. Then talking about what the director mentioned, even I will use this example because I wrote an article about it, Jagun Jagun. Just like you pointed out, at the end of the film, one guy comes with a horse and he's riding and he's like, oh, he wants revenge. Now, is that a deliberate attempt to create a continuity where there's none needed to be? Those are my questions.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bemiwu Awala. I don't know if this point has been made, but I think, and I'm happy that Mr. Ogun touched on doctor's quarters, because while the conversation was going on, I recall that when you then trace the trajectory of a lot of scripting, you must give some due credence to television, and now it has helped to birth a legion of scriptwriters. And I'm happy for he's here. So when you look at Tinsel, for example, all right, Tinsel from the start, how some of the writers on Tinsel then gave birth to a 2nd generation of writers, and that 2nd generation of writers have in turn become showrunners and have also given birth, all right, to another generation of writers. I think that the point must be made that television has indeed, to a very large extent contributed towards honing the craft of scriptwriting. And I think that, if you can get it right on TV, to a very large extent, you'll get it right everywhere. Thank you.
Okay, beyond the point of television, helping scripting in, the thing that I got from television is that it's usually a team of writers. Yes. It's always a team, and that's what is missing in our own storytelling here. But if you check some of the most successful films in Nollywood, you'll find out that it's a collection of writers. And I want to quote Uncle Femi from an interview he granted in 2019 about the need for co-creation. Uncle Femi says, here's what I always say to young filmmakers, storytellers and writers. Understand that among the audience you're writing for are people who have lived your life 3 times and a half. There are people who have seen more than you will ever see. There are people who have done more than you will ever do. So you have to live well enough to predicate your storytelling on only your own experience. Then he goes on to say, that means your storytelling must be driven by research, which is what we have been talking about here. And he also said it must be driven by other people's stories that you have consumed, which is also about talking to people about their experiences and all that. He also said, note, you can't only tell stories out of inspiration, because you have not lived well enough. In that case, you need to be a collaborator, because if you work all by yourself alone all the time, that will limit your success. Let's take another. Okay, Mama is here.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Okay. Yeah, after you, then we take...
Okay, my name is Mubarak. I'm an investment banker. And I have been listening to the discussion, and I feel like there's one other aspect of the discussion that we have not been really looking at, and that's the need for the scriptwriters, the directors, the actors to make money from the movies that they make, right? And so this kind of limits their ability to explore possibilities and really, really explore their creativity, right? And so the only thing they think of is what would sell? What are people watching right now, right? For context, I was speaking with a publisher some time ago, and he was telling me that there are some manuscripts he would not take. And this is why. He has done his formula and they have seen that, okay, this is what really, really sells in Nigerian markets right now. Mix some adult content, mix some amebo, mix some of these. Then you have a highly selling book in the market. But then when it now comes to the essence of the art in making this or writing this script, it is lost because they are more, revenue driven, right? And also, he was talking about capacity building, and I just wanted to say that, are you exploring cross-professional capacity building? And this is what I mean. You are a scriptwriter and the head of scriptwriters, right? And he's also the head of directors, right? I used to be in construction. I studied civil engineering, and the architects and all here would agree with me that as an architect, you would study some part of civil engineering. As a civil engineer, you would study some part of architecture. And so when the director is building up the story that the scriptwriter has written, because they have some understanding of script writing, they are able to better represent, to present these stories. Thank you.
Okay.
Please, can we get her the mic?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Eniola, and I'm one of the volunteers. So, sir, I feel I'm still not satisfied with the answer. Yes, director, the response you gave to what he asked. If a film fails, and who are we to blame? Is it the storyteller? Is it the scriptwriter or the director? Because I feel that sometimes when we have a script, and the script might be very good, but the director will not do justice to the script. And then we might have a script, and then might not be a good script, but the director would give it the colors that it's supposed to have and make it really nice, make the script come out in a very nice way. And then we have wrong scripts and wrong directors, and so the film too come out so terrible. So, but then I feel that you cannot just pick up a script and then jump onto it if you don't have the actual knowledge of it. So I feel that most directors need to ask the script writer for some knowledge of, okay, what is actually the story behind this? Explain what you are writing to me so that I will be able to direct it in a way that will come out nice. So I feel that your response to it, you didn't give justice to the response, sir.
That is also subjective. Stay with the microphone. Stay with the microphone. Give her the microphone. Stay with the microphone. I'm going to ask you some questions too. What is your definition of a failed movie? A failed movie.
Maybe when the movie comes out and people see the movie and they don't like it.
That is your definition of a failed movie. I hope you actually go to watch an art house movie and then come out. Have you ever watched any art house movie? You've not. So which means what you call pop culture. That's the kind of thing that you like and consume. What am I saying? You see, this is art and it's subjective. When you bring a blanket, there's a movie here. It's fine that you said people don't like it. Otherwise, there was one example I wanted to give. How many have watched Milkmaid here? Milkmaid.
I watch it. Story of.
If you ask me, it's one of the most beautiful movies that has ever come out of this country. My personal opinion. I may be wrong. Okay? And it was one of our entries to the Oscars. Unfortunately, the producers, like a mistake I made some years ago, had exhausted their budget. They didn't have money for marketing. And so we never, that's why I've asked that question. Only 2 or 3 people here have seen it. By show of hands again, how many have watched Milkmaid? Let's see your hands up. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Okay, maybe 4. So many may never see it again. Does that mean that the movie failed? No. Beautiful movie, everything. There's so many elements. You can have a very bad product that is well marketed with all the hype, and then people will say it's a great movie over another movie. If Mami Water had started his journey in this country, believe me, they would have killed it before it ever took off. But he went to Sundance, and he's traveled to some of the biggest festivals. You have not watched it. If you watch it, I guarantee you, you will say that that movie is shit. That will be your opinion, and you are entitled to it. It's subjective. It's an artwork. How many of you here remember Ophelia, the artist? I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Let us respect the art and the craft. So much goes into it. It's easy to just rubbish a work and say, what is all this? But it takes a higher calling and understanding to be able to see beyond the very surface. I hope you grow to that. To just look at the work and condemn it and say it's a failure is rather, sometimes you look at it, like in Sundance, what happened? They singled out cinematography. The script, some may not have liked. Okay? The story, some may not have liked. But they singled out something. Should I have looked at a movie like that and say, shit? So much work has gone into it. And so, as you grow in this craft, I want to advise you, because, have you made a movie yet?
She will make.
Please, when you do make one, and you bring it out to the public, and they watch it, come back and let's talk.
Please, my
Thank
sister,
you very much.
please take your seat. Eh? He has refused to still answer the question. So let's. There's an so we'll take a potential investor in the house. Tokima Bogunje,
Potential investor.
immediate past.
My name is Tokima Bogunje, and I'm speaking from.
I didn't get the name, madam. I'm interested in potential investors.
T-O-K-I. Toki. It's a very simple name.
I know, Toki.
T-O-K-I.
Yes. Toki who?
Maboguje.
Okay, I want to Google, so I'll follow this investor. Toki Maboguje.
Actually, so I really have been very interested in and valued seriously the comments of Mr. Yinka Ogun, because he's really hit the core of what we're talking about. I sort of, as a consumer, look at scriptwriters generally in the scheme of things as the scriptwriter being at the base of that pyramid and the director being somewhere on the top. But no matter what role you play in a film, so I said to myself, I need to say, who is Femi Odubemi? I don't know him personally. Neither does he know me. But I left Ikeja to come here. Why? Because it's Femi Odubemi. So I think you must understand that the consuming public know what they want to consume.
I agree.
Whether it's a cheap product from China or an expensive product from Germany, right? They know what they want to consume.
I agree.
So I think the core of the matter is, and I want you to speak to that, actually I want Yinka Ogun to speak to it. How does the quality of what you produce and the integrity of that play into this in the commercial sense? Because I believe that most creatives are not very familiar with the business of their creativity. Whether it's an artist or a film producer, the theater artists, they miss the boat when it comes to business. And in all of this conversation here, we've been having general conversations about different markets. Our guest in front had to mention that, you know, you're talking about different markets. So the script writer at the level of mass production, those that are doing the Nnamdi Azikiwe kind of thing, what are they looking for? Those guys just need opium to forget their problems of tomorrow, right? And then there's the other crowd. So there are various levels. How do you at each stage speak to the quality and the integrity of what you are doing. And I think that what is missing here is not only affecting the film industry, it's all professions. We are losing that sense of value and integrity in what we produce, no matter what it is, and we need to get that back. And you know, I need to stand with her, because I don't think you need to produce a movie to know whether you watch a good movie. Right? And I don't want to call the names of movies here, but we had a movie not too long ago, last year, where people actually got on social media, and the producer of that movie gave an apology because of the way we reacted. I mean, I was so thrown aback that, what? Well, you know, why would a film like this that gives us certain expectations fail us in this way? So I think we really should be speaking to the heart of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Let me speak to that very quickly.
Please, we just take only, after this reaction, we just take just these two. Please, I know we want to talk about scripting and storytelling, you know, and all that, but we need to go and watch Femi Odugbemi on the screen. So we need to finish. So we just take these two, and then I acknowledge your presence, Yinka Davis, the angel, Yinka Davis. I salute you. All right, so let's go. Please react.
I want to thank you very much for bringing this up. I think that this would not have been complete without this. It speaks to something I've always been talking about. As communicators, because that's who we are, by whatever means, whether the screen, the pen, or whatever, our duty is to understand our audience, understand our environment, and respect our audience as well, and also have them in mind when we are communicating, if we must do so effectively. My favorite example, and I'm not just saying it, we demonstrated that years before a lot of people even got to discover Markangel. You know, you were there. I also run a short film festival, and we recognized them almost 10 years ago when nobody ever saw it. Today they have almost 10,000 subscribers. Now, as far back as then, what I saw, some people are just beginning to see. Don't get me wrong, I'm a purist in terms of film, and I believe in the higher art and craft of filmmaking. But I also recognize that, like someone said earlier on, not all movies must go to the cinemas. There is an audience for every type of movie. I say this when I talk particularly to young filmmakers. I'm also an advocate of what I call smesme filmmaking. If I ask you here, how many people know Blossom Chukwujeku? How many of you know Blossom Chukwujeku here? 1, 2, 3. How many of you know Emanuela here? Put your hands up if you know Emanuela. Emanuela. Put your hands up, Emanuela Markangel. Eh? Is there anybody who doesn't know her? Let me see your hands up. You don't know Emanuela? No, let me see those who don't know Emanuela. Okay, okay. Okay, very good. But you know Markangel? Or you don't? Okay. She's a young comedian. Okay, you may not. Let me not even go into all that. But statistics, I've done this over and over and over. Now, they tell a particular type of story in a particular way that resonates. Yesterday, somebody spoke to us about them in Google, it's from Google, and said their biggest market is not even here. It's in Southeast Asia, where they don't even understand our kind of pidgin English and all that, but they consume that product like no man's business. You will sit here as a purist and say, this is rubbish, what are they doing? The thing is, as storytellers, we must be able to tell stories. He said something, he alluded to something like that, where he talked about global, but local, but with a global appeal. We must be able to tell stories that resonate. And what resonates, human feelings are the same globally. How we feel about love, revenge, and things like that. And so it is important to understand that. That's a beginning point. And so you don't take your audience for granted. which means you don't go telling stories and say, well, they ought to. They ought to will never work. So you must write to an audience, and I agree with you completely. Because when you do that, when you show respect for your audience, then your audience will reward you with patronage and with the commercial success that goes with it. That may be something that may be lacking. There's some filmmakers that may have that kind of arrogance where they just come and do whatever and think that it goes. That's where the issue of research comes in. And today you know that data is huge on the internet. If you understand digital marketing or working on the internet, you know that even the streamers are driven by data. So our cinemas these days, sometimes when they will say get the kind of actors they want for the movies and cinemas, they tell you, oh, how many people do they have, how many followers do they have on Instagram? Why do they do that? They are big on data. They know that if you bring this person, they will come with their crowd, you know? So some of us may have failed in that area, and I will have to admit that, but we also have to have that consciousness that data matters, that we must write to human emotions, we must understand it. It's important to know our audience, to respect them, and to also, how do I put it, write with them in mind, not what we like, but what we know based on data that they would like and appreciate. Thank you.
All right, Yinka, you want to react quickly to that? Please, I'm told that I can only just allow that to responses.
Madam, you
because
said a
we
couple
need
of
to hear
things.
from the storyteller himself.
What exactly would you like me to address?
Oh, yeah.
What's your reaction? What are your thoughts around the issue of quality of work and integrity of that work? Because the lack of research and all the other things you're talking about have to do with that. And then the impact of having a commercial mind to that. So these young people are talking about need to make money anyway at the same time, right? So would they then, because for the sake of wanting to earn, just turn out any old thing, you know? So yeah.
Okay, so generally, I actually made a note of this some minutes back, that if I had the opportunity, I will address this. So let's understand how the system works. Most of the time, writers are not telling their own stories. Writers are commissioned to tell the stories given to them by the producers. It is when you get to a certain level where your intellect has attained, when your intellect becomes equity, that is when you are actually called and said and told, what do you have? And that is when you actually start to tell your own stories. You understand? So most of the time, the producer calls you, I have this idea. Producer calls you, I have this story. Director calls you, I have this thing. The truth about it is that most writers have their retirement plan stories. They keep them. They're not going to give anybody. The hope is that they get to a point where they can sit on the table with some executive from a platform. But most of the time, what happens is that they're giving stories. So those stories you see, most of the time the writer has been asked to write them. So it's funny. Starting out, like you said, okay, I call it some kind of hierarchy. You had another word for it. Starting out, yes, you tell your stories because you're going around. It's like, please listen to my demo. You're going around, story. Then you get to a point where, okay, you now become a real writer, and people are calling you to do stuff. At that point, they're not asking you to bring your stuff. Now, you've proven that you can write based on your own stuff. Now, come and write my story. So for the next few years, you're writing your story. You're writing their story. Then you get to a level where someone else says, come, do you have a story we can work on? So it is at that point we can start to task the writer. You understand? For all those things you want. Yes, when it gets up, yes?
There's a skill to writing.
Yes. Yes.
You're telling your story for another person's story. This is what I'm talking. I'm not talking about when they've gathered capital. I'm not talking about when they've gathered the capital and the value like Femi Udubwemi has done. I'm saying that on that journey, as they become script writers, how do we make sure that they stay with the integrity of the skill? Okay. Whether it's their story or someone else's.
To a large extent, like I said, I think that it is really, at the end of the day, about the writer. How important is it to you? Do you go out of your way to improve yourself? Or you're okay where you are? Because you have young people who are going to this. I mean, when I was head of department at Ebony Life, I had someone in my class that had been to Del York. He attended courses in Africa. He attends courses everywhere. He wants to learn. He wants to improve. So such a person, you know that he's going to go far. But if the next person doesn't want to do that, then there's just a level. So even when you give them access to capacity building initiatives, they won't take them. Because, you know, like the Ebony Life thing, it was 3 months, 3 intensive months. You can't do anything those 3 months. You're paying your transportation. It must be important to you to do it. So there's some people who have refused to do it because they can't imagine that making that sacrifice. So I think at the end of the day, it's just about the writer.
It's about the writer too, and about the need for us to have a reorientation. Especially that I've seen writers who you tell them what to write and they know that the thing does not work and they leave the job. They tell you that they don't want to take on the job. Or,
they have rich parents.
Oh, well, yes, they have rich parents, but they are concerned about their name at the end of the day. They are concerned about, you know, what will come out at the end of the day, and somebody will say, this is a work that was written by...
Honestly, they are comfortable.
And the rest. Well, they are, but that's what we should begin to tell people. You know, we should not cheapen the arts because of what we want to eat. There are a lot of people in the industry who a producer will come, a certain producer will come to, and they will tell him that, no, I don't want to do any job with you. I know you'll be hungry for some time, but you will get to that point, Inka, where they will be beating the footpath to your door to get you to write scripts. So let's not even, I'm saying this because in our own kind of industry, if you don't toe their lines,
you have to be writing to do that.
You will be hungry.
You can't sit down. You can't not be writing and get to that level.
Yeah. So you need to be writing constantly and the rest of them. So we'll get to that. But let's have 1, 2, and then we'll have the storyteller talk to us.
Yes.
All right. No, mine is just in the absence of German. I think we omitted some protocol, and nobody introduced Toki Mabugunje properly. Toki, my sister, was the past president of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
She is current vice chair of the World Federation Chamber, or World Chamber Federation. That's Africa. This very distinguished group of president of screenwriters, and past president of aspiring presidents. National president. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
You know, when I was saying a potential investor, I knew what I was talking about because this was the former president of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. She is on the board of the Lagos NANTAP, chair of the board of trustees of NANTAP, and then at the point she was even planning to set up a small community theater. We're trying to raise funds for that, so we know you so well, ma. Thank you for finding time to be here. It's really an honor to have you seated with her. Please, another round of applause for her. All right, so we take him as the last, and then the storyteller will come and talk to us to round up all this. Please, go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. All protocols duly observed. When she was speaking, when Madame Toki was speaking, she mentioned about creatives not knowing much about the business side of it. A couple of years back, 2017, I met with Amefa Ichuku, chairman of ANA Lagos. I met a writer Association of Nigerian Authors, Lagos chapter. Okay. I met a young writer who happened to have written a play, and he was selling shirts in a TM Louis shop. So I took up the play, I read it, and it was a brilliant piece. I came back to him and I told him, enter this work for the ANA competition. If it's not shortlisted, my name is not Ifeanyi Chukwu Avaja. He calls me months after he won the competition. Now, he entered the same work for the NLNG. He was on the long list. In 2017, we produced the play. Now, I put in almost all my life savings, and that's what made me stand up. We had a very brilliant production, but it was a commercial flop. I had Papi Ben as director. I had Tina Mba on stage, Robo Ewela. So you had a beautiful cast. It was, it was an awesome production. But after spending about, 7 million, we raised only about 1.5, and channels covered it, but it was just a flop. And in that situation, being a greenhorn at that time, I went back to my tent and never to venture again, as it were.
Oh, Israelite.
But this year, a friend of mine called me. He sent 2 manuscripts to me, and I told him something, that if you enter this manuscript for the NLNG, you will make the long list. So he put me to tax, because I now have a publishing outfit which has just published very few works. So I published it for him. He made the NLNG long list this year. But I look at these works. I'm not seeing the connect between what I call some of these good works and the potential future movies and the money spin. So there seems to be a disconnect with the very good writers, the writings, and the successful films. So that's where probably we might have to collaborate, or I might have to come and meet some of you. How do we make this collaboration work? If we're able to see that these are good scripts that have the potential to make great films, how can we all make a success out of it and smile to the bank? Thank you.
Yes, please. Okay. Please.
Detriment not only to the theater world, but also to the film world. I think, and I'm glad we have people here from the Chamber of Commerce. I think one of the things we're lacking still is a good marketing infrastructure in the creative space. We have brilliant, like budget for marketing. I think maybe your play, your magnificent play, was lacking that marketing. I think there's a gap still in the creative industry at the moment, as we speak, in a plan or a strategy, that's the word, a marketing strategy for all the great works that we're creating. That's all I wanted to say.
All right, thank you for that. So who is responding to
the issue of marketing?
Yeah, no, the issue of marketing, but the issue of how we can actually translate some of these are very successful works. To film.
Well, I think that collaboration is the key to everything. Anna has stayed there by itself and probably has not seen the potentials. You probably are saying, these film people on their own, we are literary people. I think there's a need for a handshake. You're president of Anna. Huh?
No, chairman. Lagos State chapter.
For Lagos State. The collaboration can start from here. On this panel, he's the president of the Screenwriters Guild at the national level, and the president of the Directors Guild, and recently the chairman of the heads of all the guilds, which means that we can actually start a partnership. A lot of works have been, what's the word?
Yeah,
now?
adapted.
Adapted.
Two books.
I mean, Genevieve and
Genevieve,
we just saw a
not,
wonderful.
I do not come to you by chance.
Exactly. Beautiful,
Literary
you know. We talked about Kongi's Harvest. There's so many. So you cannot.
Kelani has done loads and loads.
Yes, so you cannot sit where you are and expect that we would come and begin to say, but it's important, we might have to do that. So thank you. So in summary, if you're winking at a girl in the dark, you know what you're doing, but nobody else does. Put on the light. Let's see you, and let's know what you're doing, and let's, thank you.
All right, I'm talking about let's see you and let's know what you are doing. I'll take another quote from Uncle Femi, another interview he granted some 4 years ago. He says, if you find an inspiration as an independent producer, you are doing, and how your process is. And the process is not just about making the film, but it's also include the infrastructure. Include the process of even getting the films to the right prospects. Then he says, create team. Create team. He has always been emphasizing the fact that it's not what you can do alone. You have to create team, collaboration, and the rest. Create team and find other storytellers, because two brains are better than one. So it's my honor to invite one man who has two brains.
Exactly.
Who has two brains. Nobody has, but this man has two brains because he does so much. Please, let's invite the storyteller himself, Femi Odugbemi.
Good evening, everyone. I'm really going to say a big thank you. It's really about saying a thank you. And how honored I feel that Labaf would do this session for me to honor my birthday. I am especially thankful. Even if there was just 2 people here, it would have been a big honor. And I'm really, really grateful. I want to thank the 3 men on the high table or the panel. They're all very special people to me. I think they tried to say that at the beginning. But the truth is my career actually, I don't know how they could have picked a different set of 3 people. I've known the president of the Screenwriters Guild since I was a young man. I was once a young man in Surulere. Sometime in the, I think it was in the 90s. And I'm really, really so happy to see him here. We've done some of the most seminal work in my career together. He created Tinsel, just so you know. But he had always been an amazing storyteller, and I'll come back to that. I worked with Dr. Khai at ITPAN when we were the Independent Television Producers Association. I was briefly president for 4 years, and in those 4 years I was very concentrated on training, and he was the director of the training school. And we've worked together, it can't be less than 25 years. So for me, you are the right man to be here. And if you don't know, if you don't know Dr. Schreiber, then you don't know anybody in our industry. I want to thank him, especially for the work that he does in this industry. He's been the chairman of the jury of AMA. It can't be less than 50 years now. How many? I mean, the truth is, he sees more of our films than I think most of us see. And he has not just been a critic, he's been an energizer for the industry. True. And I really want to thank you for the work you do and to respect the fact that you chose to be here today. I want to thank the rest of you. Thank you, Auntie Mabugunja. Thank you. The point I make is that I really don't work with scriptwriters. I work with storytellers. And I make that distinction because I get a lot of scripts from people, sometimes 120 pages, 90 pages. People send me a lot of scripts. They're under the impression that I do nothing in my life but read other people's stuff. There's not enough time in my life for that. The truth is, I talk to storytellers because a storyteller would tell me a full story in 4 or 5 pages with a log line, with a synopsis, with a treatment. I know if it's a story I want. How do I know? I know it because I'll see the world of the story. I'll see that there's a character, there's a protagonist, there's an antagonist. I'll know what the conflict is, what it is that is here. I'll know the insight of the story. I'll know if this is a story I want to tell. So you don't need to write me a script for me to work with you. You just need to be able to tell me a story that works. And that's why what I do now is teach people how to pitch. A pitching document is what people put hundreds of millions of dollars on, not scripts. Nobody reads scripts. I don't know if people know this. But the truth is, if you are a producer and you put money on a script, you're just making a bet. Because if you do have a pitching document, we can argue from now till the story is right before we write it. And if we have a great pitching document, you don't need to be the writer of the story. The story will still be yours. And you'll get paid for the story, not for crafting 100 pages of nothingness. The truth is artificial intelligence will do that. And I've demonstrated that over and over. I was in Uganda. I asked them to give me a synopsis, and they did. And AI wrote them a script in 17 minutes. Yeah, AI can do that.
Not 6 months.
No. So it's not the words on the pages, it's the story. Does AI own that story? No. The synopsis I asked for, the logline I asked for, is the story. But AI can write it because it can aggregate algorithms. And it will aggregate algorithms with the best writers in the world, not you. That is just beginning. So we've got to kind of understand where the world is. The science of storytelling is no longer something done on a whim. There is a science. Teach it in school. It's why I was academic director for Multi-Choice Talent Factory for 4 or 5 years. And we taught storytelling. And he was the director for script writing at Ebony. I'm sure he taught a system, a process. Huh? But at the end of the day, there is no writer that should be blamed for anything ever. There is a team that should be blamed if a film goes wrong. So I want to just underline again the importance of collaborations, building teams, building systems. If we continue to run our creative industry on the strength of individual capacities, we will fail. We have to institutionalize our processes. We have to institutionalize our production, institutionalize our ideation, our distribution. It is those institutions, when we build them, that we have an industry. We can't have an industry if it's Femi versus Victor or, Akin versus, no. So I'm hoping that by prioritizing discussions on storytelling at this event, we're also demonstrating that, we're ready to get going to do that. If you look at all the platforms that are in Nigeria now, the streaming platforms, they're creating stories every day because they have a writing room. The writing room is virtual. There is not a single one of their shows that has a single writer in it. A couple now. And the truth of it is in each of those rooms are specializations. None of those rooms have foreigners. They are Nigerian writers. But now we have specialized people who are specialized as script editors, specialized as story editors, specialized as story researchers. And each room has 3, 4, 5, 6 people who are crafting. That's what is done in an institutionalized process. So there is nobody to blame per se. There is something to be created. And our way there is also to know that our first draft is never the best draft of anything. When I was younger, and I met him because he used to write poems. He would write poems and read to us Alabegi. We had a place called Abegi in Surulere, and he was the Omobaba landlord kind of guy, and he would write poems and read to us while we bought beer or whatever that we bought there. But he proceeded to start telling stories on radio stories. And we used to go to Abegi to listen to his stories. He hadn't written a TV script when I met him, but he was a great storyteller already. And so for me, it's not, I mean, you really should give him a round of applause. And I don't know why he took on the job he has taken on. I hope he's able to create people along that trajectory where we are not just writing stuff, but actually telling stories. Stories are powerful. Stories are important. I want our stories not judged only on whether they entertain, but also whether they create a different kind of future. It's very important that we write scripts and stories that foreshadow the future. Nigeria is the way it is because we keep only reflecting that which we already know. And it's not going to take us anywhere because the way I say it is film is reflection, but film is also refraction. You can change the trajectory of the light by the way you place the mirror. I don't think our mirror should continue to be showing our society for what it is. We know what it is. Our audience knows what it is. So show me a policeman that can work without a bribe. Don't show me the one with the bribe. Show me women who are strong and who are leading, not the one who are making a life simply by taking money from men. Stop regurgitating stuff. That's really, if you ask me if I have a message for our industry, that's what it is. This is 30 years of Nollywood. We can't keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again and think we're moving forward. It's time for us, time to change the story. Thank you very much.
This is a man.
I want you, please. I want us to give him a. I want
his heart is not always wise. This is a man who stumbles and falls, but this is a man who tries. This is a man you forgive and help and protect as long as you live. He will not always say what you would have him say. Then all at once he'll say something wonderful. The thoughtless things he'll do may hurt and worry you. Then all at once he'll do something wonderful. He had 1,000 dreams that must come true. You know that he believes in them, and that's enough for you. You'll always defend him when he's wrong, and tell him when he's strong. He is wonderful. He'll always need your love, and so he'll get your love. A man who'll need your love can be wonderful.
A very brilliant way to end this panel session. I'd like to thank so much our panelists who have done justice to this panel. But I'm going to leave you with two quotes from the storyteller himself. Today, Femi says sometime back, today, the only currency you have is how good you are at storytelling. And then he says this one with which I want to leave the stage. He says, every story has an end, but in life, every ending is a new beginning. This is a new beginning, and the conversation should continue. Thank you, German, for having us. Thank you so much, the panelists. Thank you, Dr. Kai. Thank you, Mr. Yinka Ogun. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to ask you to just stand up. Femi Odugbemi, Toyin Akinsho. Please, this is the first phase of this. We're going downstairs because the film show will start there. In fact, the real party. We've cooked a bar. Okay. We have Ika Davis, please. Yeah, sure. If I Roya, you are a storyteller. Yeah, you are a storyteller. Madam Toki, please. So we'll be going downstairs for the wrap for this celebration. We have 4 films to show. And as I said at the beginning, Femi Odugbemi's films go beyond just the normal Nollywood, normal documentary. He actually uses film to document heritage, to document contributors, legends. He uses documentary to document culture, and then uses documentary to document environment. We thought these 4 areas are very strong. That's the way you can use the power that you have. As we say, Labaf is a campaign for literacy, to empower all of us. Education, enlightenment, and empowerment. That's why we chose those 4 films. Otherwise, we could have chosen like hundreds of his films. Thank you very much. We're all going to the food court. There is pounded yam and... I didn't conclude. I didn't finish the statement. There are snacks like... there are pounded yam like snacks.
Let me just exchange